This is my cycloidal drive gearbox. There's no gears in here. In fact, it runs off of just chain. When you're making a gearbox, you want to turn the high speed of your motor into something high torque, something strong. Usually you do this with something like gears or belts. The way that I'm getting high torque though is with a cycloidal gearbox. The way that the disc in the center wobbles around ends up getting you reduction. Plenty of people have made cycloidal gearboxes on YouTube before, but my big issue is that they always use like a million pins and bearings, which I don't have on hand. You know what I do have on hand though? Chain. So I went ahead and designed a chain-based cycloidal gearbox. One of the big benefits of my design is that there's like not that many pieces to it. There's like 6 or 7 bearings in there and only 4 or 5 parts I actually have to make myself. I designed the gearbox around a skateboard motor since I want to throw this skateboard motor on my bike, and I thought if it can like drive a person on a skateboard, then it can drive a bike probably. But the reduction doesn't make sense, so that's why I have a gearbox on it. I've put gears and a random ass motor on my bike before, but plastic gears don't really work too well for a while. So that's why I ended up machining this gearbox. And instead of gears, I'm making this cycloidal, because why not? The first 2 parts I had to make were the top and bottom clamp, which their main job was to hold together the chain and keep it in place. I machined them out of aluminum 6061, which is the world's most common, versatile aluminum alloy. The next part I made was the cycloid, and I decided to make this out of steel because it moves a lot and it should probably be steel. I tried to CNC it on the Carvera Air, which is a desktop CNC mill. It's not meant to do steel at all, and you can hear from these noises that's not really happy with this job. It was in just a little bit of pain. After trying and failing to CNC the cycloid, I just went ahead and used a fiber laser cutter instead, and while I was at it, I also cut the eccentric shaft. The reason I wanted to CNC it in the first place is because there's this little bore in the center where a ball bearing is supposed to go, and if I could just do this with the CNC, it'd be so much easier. So for this project, concentricity is pretty important, so I opted to use a 4-jaw chuck. Especially after people on my last video complained about me not using a 4-jaw chuck. So I went through the effort to actually change that out. Dude, it's such a pain to use a 4-jaw chuck, but I was eventually able to get it, and it was decently concentric. Yeah, it was okay. Alright, I took it off the lathe and I realized I tacoed the part, so it was like bent inwards. I think it's because I clamped it too hard with the vise when I was trying to figure that concentricity out. So now the bearing is way too loose in there. It's a little bit of wobble. This is Loctite 640. It kind of glues it in. I mean, I also got the press fit really well on the eccentric shaft. But then I lost the other one, and even though I could make another one, I don't really feel like remaking parts because I don't have that much time. So Let's put this spray on it. This is Loctite accelerant because I realistically only have today to work on this project. So, all right, there we go. The last part I had to make was the output, and I was like, since I don't have pins, I'll machine in my own pins. So this part had to be made out of steel. I found a random chunk of steel in the machine shop, and then I chucked it on the lathe and started cleaning up the top and bottom sides so that I can put it in the CNC mill later. I also went ahead and punked a little hole in the center so that later I can find the center of it without needing to indicate it in. After the CNC mill did most of the job, I went ahead and tossed it on the lathe. Again with the 4-jaw and indicated it in, and then I went ahead and cleaned it up on the lathe. After that, I went ahead and arbor pressed on 6 of the bearings. So part of the design is that the bearings I can't have them be falling down, so I just kind of mushroom the top of the pin, and then the bearing can't escape. Now that all the parts were made, I could go ahead and put together the entire cycloidal gearbox. It was around here that I realized I needed to axially constrain the eccentric shaft in the center. So I decided to 3D print a little spacer that goes between the motor and it. That would be kind of cool if there's a gap so that you can see what's happening on the inside, and I think it is cool. I hooked it up to a speed controller and it totally works. It actually spins. I mean, it's a gearbox. It's supposed to spin. Something annoying that it would do though is every now and then, like on startup, it would screech, but I don't know. Backlash all comes from, there's a pretty decent amount of backlash. Looks like it all comes from the chain moving in the housing. I guess the theory was I wanted it to clamp by the aluminum, but I guess it doesn't clamp hard enough. So a little bit of backlash. If you want to see me hook it up to a dynamometer, then I'll do that in the video where I hook it up to my bike and we can see things like how much power it draws, how efficient it is, how much torque it outputs, and if it actually works on a bike. So if you want to see that, please subscribe, and yeah, see ya. Oh, and one more thing, I'm running MIT's hardware hackathon this year. So if it is still the month of January and you are a college student, feel free to apply. I know it says deadline's closed on the 19th, but deadline is closed at the end of the month because I said so.